For billions of years, we believed the outer limits of the solar system were a frozen graveyard. Beyond Pluto, there was only ice and silence. We were looking to the other side of the universe when we realized we were wrong, because the greatest secret was right beside us. When the James Webb telescope turned towards the Kuiper belt, it found something that shattered the laws of physics. Its surface was covered in ice at negative 226 degrees. But a signal of 7,700 degrees was radiating from its core. This was impossible, because that is hotter than the surface of the Sun itself. Its orbit lasted a full 25,000 years, so it should have been frozen for billions of years. But that wasn't the most mind-bending part. This was a message that had been traveling towards us for thousands of years. If you're excited by the idea that the universe's greatest secret might be right beside us, like this video and subscribe to the channel, because you will be one of the first to hear what this ancient message has to say. Let's begin. For years we thought the outer limits of the solar system were a frozen graveyard, frozen for billions of years. We believed that beyond Pluto, there was only ice and silence. That's why, while we were looking to the other side of the universe with $100 billion telescopes, we were missing the biggest secret right under our noses, because we realized the real mystery wasn't a frozen piece of rock, it was a message. But to understand our solar system, we must first take a step back, because we have to grasp what a celestial body must do to call itself a planet. In the early 21st century, astronomers got much more powerful telescopes. With better tools, you start seeing things that were previously invisible. That's why, on the edge of our solar system, more small, strange objects suddenly started to appear. But the real turning point came in 2003 with the discovery of Eris. It was a celestial body almost as large as Pluto. But no one knew it. This very discovery was the beginning of the end for Pluto's planethood. Because the International Astronomical Union asked itself a simple, yet heavy question. What truly makes a planet a planet? The answer was reduced to three clear conditions. First, the celestial body must orbit the Sun directly, not another planet like the Moon. Second, it must be massive enough for its own gravity to force it into a round shape. And third, the most crucial point, it must gravitationally dominate its orbit. This means it must be able to swallow, fling away, or otherwise affect the other objects in its path. Imagine a giant truck on the highway. It simply pushes all the smaller cars in its lane aside. A true planet does exactly that in its orbital zone. But Pluto lives in the Kuiper belt, a region filled with icy objects. It orbits the Sun. It also has a round shape. But it cannot clear its orbit of other celestial bodies. Therefore, it fails to meet the third condition. So, it was understood that Pluto was not much different from thousands of similar objects, trans-Neptunian objects, or TNOs for short. Today we know of more than 5,000 TNOs. Only a fraction of these are officially numbered, meaning their orbits have been studied well enough, and it is right here, in this silent, icy world beyond Neptune, that the real mystery begins. Because some of these small planets were moving in orbits that did not seem random at all. Their inclinations, their orientations, their groupings, they all whispered. They said that somewhere out there, something bigger was pulling the strings, something we couldn't yet see. Imagine watching a group of ice cubes floating in a dark ocean. Normally, they should scatter in all directions, with no pattern, with no order. But you suddenly realize they're all tilted in the same direction, all of them, without exception. When astronomers looked closer at the orbits of the trans-Neptunian objects, they observed exactly that. Most of these small worlds had similar orbits and similar inclinations. This was not a small detail, this was a signal, and this very signal led to one of the most exciting hypotheses in modern astronomy: the existence of a ninth planet. This hypothetical super-Earth was attributed a mass 5 to 10 times that of Earth. It had to be orbiting at the edges of our solar system, perhaps as far as 75 billion kilometers from the Sun. Like an invisible puppeteer, it would shape and guide the orbits of the TNOs with its gravity. The extreme trans-Neptunian objects, or ETNOs, were particularly noteworthy. These bodies moved in very long elliptical orbits with an average distance from the Sun of more than 22 billion kilometers. Their orbits could not be explained by the gravity of Neptune, nor Uranus, Saturn, or Jupiter. This situation led some scientists to a clear conclusion. Something out there has to be influencing these objects. Something big. Something invisible. But over the last 5 to 6 years, researchers discovered more and more new TNOs. Most of these newly found objects no longer fit the old picture. Of the nearly 6,000 objects in orbits more than 4.5 billion kilometers from the Sun, most showed no signs of being influenced by a hidden planet. This was like realizing that half of the ice cubes were actually drifting in all directions, completely randomly and unexpectedly. For this reason, scientists did not want to give up on the idea of Planet 9. So, why? Because searching for a hidden world means much more than just discovering a new celestial body. Such a discovery could explain why our solar system looks so different from most other systems we know. In other solar systems, super-Earths and mini-Neptunes are completely normal. In ours, they are missing. Planet 9 could be the answer to this problem. Also, such a world could act as a cosmic shield. It could pull in asteroids from the outer regions of space and prevent them from hitting the inner planets. It could even help explain how our entire solar system was formed. That is why the search continues. But, with the discovery of the new dwarf planet Ophi, the theory began to falter. Because Ophi was not behaving as an object that should be under the influence of Planet 9 should behave. In fact, its existence made the Planet 9 theory impossible. Because the existence of Ophi, combined with the predicted mass and location of Planet 9, created a physical impossibility. This forced astronomers to confront an uncomfortable truth that shattered a theory they had carefully built for years. If a giant planet were there, Ophi should have been gone long ago. But Ophi was there, calmly and steadily gliding in its orbit. So, let us first return to a historical event that started this great mystery, the year 1930. In that year, astronomers discovered Pluto, that small, icy body at the edge of our solar system. It was a triumph of observational astronomy, a moment that went down in history. But, in that very year, around the same time, another celestial body quietly and unnoticed passed its closest point to the Sun. It was theoretically close enough to be discovered. But no one saw it. No one suspected its existence, and it began its journey outward into 25,000 years of icy darkness. Exactly 95 years after this event, in May 2025, researchers finally found it. Its official name is 2017 F201. We call it Ophi for short, and this discovery was anything but ordinary. Because it was not found by a special search or a modern space telescope aimed directly at it. Instead, scientists sifted through public archive data. They meticulously pieced together 19 separate photographs taken over a 7-year period. Image by image, data point by data point. They worked until Ophi emerged from the darkness. It was an impressive piece of detective work. So, what made this dwarf planet so special? Ophi's estimated diameter is about 700 kilometers. This makes it a dwarf planet, significantly larger than many other trans-Neptunian objects, but only a third the size of Pluto. That alone would not be a major headline. But what makes Ophi truly extraordinary is its orbit. Its orbit is extremely elongated, like a long and narrow elliptical arc passing through the outermost corners of our solar system. At its closest point to the Sun, Ophi comes within about 6.7 billion kilometers. This is roughly equivalent to Pluto's distance from the Sun. But, at its farthest point, it moves out to 240 billion kilometers. This means Ophi leaves the Kuiper belt far behind and touches the inner boundary of the Oort cloud, that giant icy shell that surrounds our solar system like a ghostly shroud. A full tour of Ophi around the Sun takes at least 25,000 years. 25,000 years. During this time, all of known human history has occurred more than twice. Despite these enormous dimensions, Ophi is almost invisible to our telescopes. Because Astronomers estimate that it is observable in only about 1% of its entire orbit. The rest of the time, it is lost in depth that no modern instrument can reach. Too far, too faint, too dark. This makes its discovery all the more remarkable, because we literally caught that single window that opens only once every 25,000 years. But, as fascinating as these details are, the real crux of the matter lies elsewhere. Because, when researchers analysed Ophir's orbit more closely, they realised it did not fit the patterns that had been used to support the Planet 9 hypothesis until now. Ophir did not belong to the same group as the other extreme trans-Neptunian objects. And more importantly, if Planet 9 were really out there, with its assumed mass and predicted location, Ophir could not maintain this orbit. The gravity of Planet 9 would have flung it out of the solar system long ago. The fact that Ophir is still there, stable and calm in its orbit, whispers an unsettling possibility to us. Perhaps there is no Planet 9 out there, or perhaps the truth is hidden much deeper than we thought. Science loves order. It loves predictable and verifiable models. But sometimes a single celestial body appears and shakes theories that have been carefully built for years. Ophir is exactly such an object. To understand why its existence is so dangerous, we must pause for a moment and ask ourselves a simple question. What would happen if Planet 9 were really out there? Physics gives a clear answer. An object with the mass of Planet 9, meaning 5 to 10 times heavier than Earth, would affect everything around it with its gravity. Celestial bodies that came too close to its orbit would either be ejected from the system or be directed into entirely new orbits. No object could remain untouched for long. But Ophir is untouched. Its orbit seems stable and calm, as if it has been this way for a very, very long time. Calculations show that an orbit like Ophir's could survive under the influence of Planet 9 for at most about 100 million years before being altered or disappearing completely. But everything indicates that Ophir has been in this orbit for much longer. This is not a small detail. This is a fundamental contradiction. That's why astronomers are faced with the disturbing question. If Planet 9 is not responsible for Ophir's strange, elongated orbit, then what is? Science has a few answers. None are simple, but all are fascinating. The first idea is called galactic tides. Just as the Moon pulls on Earth's oceans, our entire galaxy, the Milky Way, exerts a gentle but constant gravitational force on everything in our solar system. This force is slow. It's hard to feel. But, for an object moving so far out, like Ophir, this gentle pull can dramatically change an orbit over millions of years. This was a plausible explanation. But then the James Webb telescope looked at this region, and everything changed. Because the real shock was not Ophir's orbit. The real shock was Ophir itself. It was a planet that should not exist. In the chaotic region of the Kuiper belt, where everything is ice and debris 4.5 billion kilometers away, Ophir was not a dwarf planet. It was a solid rocky planet with 1.5 times the mass of Earth, and on its surface, it was hiding an unbelievable secret. Because on its surface, it was hiding an unbelievable secret. There were traces of liquid water. There was even a thin atmosphere. This was impossible. Because the gravitational instability in this region should never have allowed such a planet to form. According to our theories, only ice giants or small clumps of frozen debris could exist at this distance. But Ophir was a warm cousin, similar to Mars, calm and stable. So, scientists ran a simulation. This simulation showed that Ophir's orbit could remain this way for at most 100 million years. But the planet's geological structure screamed that it was at least 2 billion years old. Two contradictory facts. On one hand, a 100 million year expiration date. On the other, a 2 billion year existence. This was like finding freshly baked bread in a room with an oven you knew had been broken for millions of years. Something was definitely wrong. But the real anomaly was not Ophir itself. It lay in something on its surface, something that should not have been there. Webb's infrared eyes discovered a huge geometric structure at the planet's south pole, a perfect hexagon. Each side was exactly 700 kilometers long. Its surface was made of a smooth, sesqui crystalline material that resembled no known natural element, and it reflected 99.9% of the light that fell on it. The most reflective natural surface known in the solar system is the fresh snow on Enceladus, a moon of Saturn, and even it reflects only 99% of the light. This 0.9% difference means a huge gap between a natural process and an artificial structure. Nature creates imperfect circles, random patterns. But it does not create a perfect hexagon with 700-kilometer sides. This structure covered an area larger than the state of Texas, and it had been sitting there, motionless, for thousands of years. The scientists were in shock. One astronomer said, "When we first saw the data, we thought it was a sensor error. It was impossible." He continued, "But we looked again and again with different instruments. It was there, staring back at us. And then the message came. Not a radio wave, not a sequence of code, a light, a pattern. That giant hexagonal structure was not just a monument on a frozen surface, because it was also a transmitter. Periodically, exactly every 2.3 hours, the center of the hexagon sent an intense pulse of heat and light into space. The temperature of these pulses was unbelievable, a full 7,700 degrees Celsius. This was even hotter than the surface of the Sun, which reaches about 5,500 degrees Celsius. How could a structure on the surface of a negative 226-degree planet send a signal hotter than the Sun? This questioned all known laws of thermodynamics. But that was not the most shocking discovery. When Webb spectrometers analyzed the data in these light pulses, it became clear that these pulses were not random. They followed a sequence of prime numbers: 2 vertical bar, 3 vertical bar, 5 vertical bar, 7 vertical bar, 11. This was a message in the universal language of the universe. An isotopic decay analysis showed that the structure itself was at least 25,000 years old. A battery that had been working for 25,000 years. A transmitter emitting signals hotter than the Sun. And all of this on the surface of a planet that should not exist. All these findings, the impossible planet, the artificial structure, and the thousands of years old message, asked a single question: how? But as scientists delved deeper into the data, they realized this was not just a discovery, it was an invitation. Because these pulses were not being scattered randomly into space. Instead, they were all focused on a single point, a place in our solar system, Earth. After a 25,000-year journey, Ophi's message reached its destination, Earth, at the very moment it was discovered. This could not be a coincidence. This was a rendezvous calculated with incredible precision. But the real shock behind this precision lay with the planet itself. Because Ophi had 20 small moons in its orbit. All were the size of dwarf planets. Their diameters reached almost 140 kilometers. But the impossible thing was not their number, it was their orbits. These 20 moons were not chaotically circling Ophi. They were rotating like a perfect clockwork mechanism. Each orbit formed a precise 18-degree angle with the next. This made a perfect circle of 360 degrees in total. They never collided. They never wobbled. It was as if they were moving on invisible rails. Natural gravity does not create such an order. On the contrary, over time, it destabilizes orbits, causing moons to collide or be ejected from the system. But these 20 moons had been rotating in this perfect dance for at least 2 billion years. This was like walking into a watchmaker's workshop after a storm and seeing that all the parts had randomly come together to form a working clock. It was physically impossible. But it was there. And these moons had a mission. Because each one was continuously sending low-frequency microwave energy to the hexagonal structure on Ophi's surface. This explained how the giant structure had been operating for 25,000 years. These 20 moons formed a kind of wireless charging network. Not for the planet. They were feeding energy only to that hexagonal structure. This is why Ophi was turning all known laws of energy on their head. But the biggest secret lay beneath the planet's surface. Webb's seismic echo data revealed something incredible about 21 kilometers below the surface, a metallic sphere. The diameter of this sphere was exactly 100 kilometers, and it was denser than the core of Mercury, the densest planet. This could not be natural, because when a planet forms, the densest materials gather at the center, they form a core. But in Ophi, this giant metallic sphere was floating just below the planet's crust. According to the laws of gravity, this sphere should have collapsed into the planet's core billions of years ago. But it hadn't. It was as if it were being held in place by an invisible force. As scientists tried to understand what this sphere could be, the magnetic field data arrived, and everything became even stranger. Because this sphere was generating a magnetic field 1 million times stronger than the planet's own. It was a field so powerful that it created a shield around the planet. It deflected the deadly radiation of the Kuiper belt and the constant bombardment of meteors. This explained how Ophi's thin atmosphere and the liquid water on its surface could have survived for billions of years. The sphere was an energy shield protecting the planet, an artificial shield. At this point, the scientists were no longer just astonished. They were terrified. Each finding was more impossible than the last. Each data point was like a slap in the face to the known laws of physics. An impossible planet, an artificial structure, a wireless charging network, and now a massive energy source that defied gravity. All these discoveries, the warm planet in a stable orbit, the giant hexagonal transmitter, the 20 moons charging it, and the artificial core protecting the planet, were no longer asking the question, how is this possible? Because there was a much more fundamental question. What was the mechanism behind this incredibly advanced technology? How did this system work? What was the secret of the energy source that produced signals hotter than the sun? And what was the nature of the force that held that metal sphere in the air, just below the surface? The answers to these questions no longer required astronomy, but a descent into the deepest parts of physics. Because we understood that what we were facing was not just a discovery, but a technological miracle. And to understand how this technology works, we must first understand the technology itself. But how does this technology work? Each piece of the puzzle made the other seem impossible, but also explained it. That's why scientists took a step back. They were no longer asking, what did we find? Now they were asking, how does this system work? Excitement and shock gave way to a cool-headed engineering analysis, because what they were facing was not a wonder of nature, it was a wonder of technology, and every technology has a logic, a working principle. Now we dive into these principles, these technical details. The first and biggest puzzle was Ophi's orbit. Because how could this planet have remained stable for 2 billion years in the gravitational chaos of the Kuiper belt? Simulations gave it only 100 million years. But the planet was there. The answer lay in that network of 20 moons, in that clockwork mechanism. Scientists called this system dynamic orbital resonance. Imagine pushing someone on a swing. If you push at random times, the swing moves irregularly and eventually stops. But if you push at the exact right moment, in sync with the swing's natural rhythm, a small push can carry it even higher. This is exactly what those 20 moons were doing to Ophi, gravitationally. Each moon gave it a tiny gravitational push as it passed a specific point in Ophi's orbit. These pushes were individually insignificant, too small to measure. But when 20 moons, in perfect synchronization, performed these pushes at the exact right moment over Ophi's 25,000-year orbit, they created a cumulative effect. This effect precisely neutralized the disruptive influences of other large bodies in the Kuiper belt, other dwarf planets, and even Neptune itself. It was like a cosmic noise cancellation system. The moons heard the incoming gravitational interference and pushed with an opposing interference to keep Ophi stable in its orbit. The precision of the system was incredible. The timing of each push had to be accurate to a millionth of a second. Otherwise, the system wouldn't last for 2 billion years, not even 2,000 years. This mechanism explained why the planet had remained stable for so long, because it was not passively drifting. It was being actively held in its orbit. This was not a freak of nature, but deliberate engineering. But this was not the only task of these moons. They were also supplying energy to the giant hexagonal structure. So far from the sun, in a system with almost no sunlight, how could they generate this energy? The answer lay in the moons themselves and in tidal forces. This mechanism is called resonant tidal heating. Think of Eos, or one of Jupiter's moons. Io is constantly needed by Jupiter's massive gravity, and this internal friction makes it volcanically active. Ophi's moons worked on a similar principle, but at a much more advanced level. Because the 20 moons were under the gravitational influence not only of Ophi, but also of each other. Their perfect 18-degree orbital angles allowed them to exert tidal forces on each other in the most efficient way. One moon pulls another, a third enhances this effect, a fourth provides balance. This constant gravitational kneading heated the cores of the moons to incredible temperatures, about 15,000 degrees Celsius. This heat turned the silicate and metal compounds in the moons into plasma. Each moon turned into a natural thermonuclear reactor, carrying a kind of mini-sun inside it. Then these reactors converted the heat into microwave energy through a crystalline layer just below the moon's crust. Each moon generated about 2 terawatts of power per second. That was about 1,000 times the total power of all nuclear power plants on Earth, and 99.9% of this energy was focused on a single point, the hexagonal structure on Ophi's surface. The system was so efficient that there had been almost no energy loss for billions of years. That's why this system, despite being 40 times farther from the Sun, generated its own energy. It had created its own small solar system. This brings us to the question of how the hexagonal structure itself worked. But the technology behind it was beyond anything we knew. Because this was not just energy transfer. This was a rewriting of the most fundamental rules of physics and the real secret. But the technology behind it was beyond anything we knew. Because this was not just energy transfer. This was a rewriting of the most fundamental rules of physics, and the real secret lay in the question of how the hexagonal structure itself worked. How did it convert the microwave energy it received into a pulse of light hotter than the sun? And why was it sending prime numbers? Now it is time to set aside the shock and excitement and think like a cool-headed engineer. Because there had to be a logic, a working principle, behind this technological miracle. Scientists called this mechanism a phonon laser. A conventional laser works by exciting photons, particles of light. But this structure used a different principle. When it received microwave energy, it used it to excite not photons, but phonons. Phonons are the quantum units of the vibrations of atoms in a crystal lattice. Think of it this way. If the circular waves created when you throw a stone into a lake are like photons, the vibrations inside a wobbling jelly are like phonons. The hexagonal structure was bouncing these phonons, these vibrations, along its 700-kilometer-long sides with incredible precision. With each bounce, just like in a laser, the energy of the phonons increased. After billions and trillions of bounces, this accumulated vibrational energy was released at a single point in the center of the structure. It was at this moment of release that the vibrational energy suddenly transformed into heat and light. And this transformation produced that incredible 7,700 degrees Celsius. Because the energy was concentrated in an extremely small area, in a time on the order of picoseconds, that is, a trillionth of a second. This is similar to focusing sunlight with a magnifying glass to ignite paper. But what was being focused here was not light, but the vibration inside a crystal the size of Texas. The prime number sequence was not a message, but a safety mechanism. The system released energy at prime number intervals to prevent it from destroying itself with its own generated vibrations, a resonance catastrophe. The message was the system itself. It was saying, we can build a stable and long-lasting structure. But even these incredible mechanisms did not explain the most fundamental question. How did that 100-kilometer metallic sphere under the surface defy gravity? And how did it generate that magnetic field 1 million times stronger, protecting the planet? Because the answers to these questions required not just advanced engineering, but a completely new physics. That sphere was not just the planet's energy source, but also its heart. But this heart was beating not like a biological organ, but like an engineering marvel. To understand how this sphere defied gravity, scientists focused on a concept they called dynamic field propulsion. This was a completely new branch of physics. Imagine bringing two powerful magnets with the same poles close to each other. You know that invisible, repulsive force you feel? Now take that force and make it 1,000,000 times more complex. The sphere was not generating a single magnetic field. In fact, it was generating incredibly complex and layered magnetic fields that changed billions of times per second. These fields were like onion skins. Each layer interacted with the one above and below it, creating a gravitational counterfield that precisely balanced the sphere against the planet's center of gravity. So, the sphere was not eliminating the planet's gravity. It was continuously adjusting its own gravitational signature to precisely balance the planet's gravity. It was like a top levitating in mid-air. But what held this top in the air was not a current of air, but a symphony of magnetic fields, recalculated and adjusted 3.2 billion times per second. The energy consumption of this mechanism was absolutely staggering. That's why the sphere had to produce its own energy. This brings us to the next step. How did the sphere produce its energy? No sunlight, no chemical reactions, no nuclear fission. The answer was both more fundamental and more exotic. Scientists believe it is a zero-point synergy reactor. According to quantum field theory, even absolute empty space is not actually empty. It is filled with virtual particles that constantly pop into existence and disappear again. Quantum fluctuations. This is the fundamental energy layer of the universe, zero-point energy. Normally, this energy is inaccessible because it is extremely stable and evenly distributed in all directions, just like the surface of a calm ocean, not a single wave. But this sphere had found a way to shake the ocean. With those complex magnetic fields, it was compressing the fabric of spacetime, that calm ocean at the Planck scale, the smallest possible scale in the universe. This scale is about 1.6 times 10 to the power of negative 35 meters. This compression caused virtual particles to turn into real particles, pairs of matter and antimatter. These pairs instantly annihilated each other, releasing pure energy. So, the sphere was drawing energy from the vacuum itself. This was a technology beyond all of humanity's energy dreams. While we are still burning fossil fuels or splitting atoms, this technology was sucking energy from the fundamental fabric of the universe. The amount of energy produced was about 10 to the power of 25 joules per second. This was equal to about 25% of the total energy the sun radiates in 1 second, and it all happened quietly and cleanly inside a 100-kilometer sphere. The power of that massive magnetic shield protecting the planet and the propulsion system defying gravity came from here. Yet, as incredible as these mechanisms were, they left one question unanswered: the message. If it was a safety mechanism, why was that prime number sequence being sent? Why was it also in a universal mathematical language? Why was it shouting to the entire galaxy, "We are here and we are the masters of physics"? And most importantly, who was supposed to receive this message? Because scientists found the answer to this question not on Ophi itself, but in Ophi's orbit. But it was not another celestial body. It was the vacuum itself. The James Webb Space Telescope discovered an anomaly at the farthest point of the orbit, about 240 billion kilometers away. A distortion in space-time. A tear. It was not a wormhole. It was not an Einstein-Rosen bridge. It was a wake left behind by an Alcubierre drive. An Alcubierre drive is a theoretical concept that allows for faster-than-light travel by compressing space-time in front of a spacecraft and expanding it behind. The ship itself does not move. Space-time moves around it, just like a surfer who moves forward without swimming, thanks to the wave he's riding on. Until now, this was pure theory, because the amount of negative energy required exceeded all the energy in the known universe. It was impossible. But Ophi's zero-point energy reactor could produce this negative energy, because it could manipulate both positive and negative energy fluctuations. This wake changed the meaning of everything. Because Ophi was not a planet. It was not a colony ship. Ophi was a gigantic engine. and therefore, its 25,000-year orbit was actually a charging cycle. As the planet approached the inner part of the solar system, it was collecting mass and material from the Oort cloud and the Kuiper belt. Yes, the 20 moons were processing this material and powering the planet's energy systems. This was like a car stopping at a gas station to refuel, but on a cosmic scale. Ophi was collecting the resources it needed for its journey between systems along the way. This was its survival strategy, a cycle that had been going on for billions of years. When it reached its farthest point from the Sun, it used all the energy it had accumulated to make a jump in spacetime to its next destination. The message was a byproduct of this jump, like the exhaust gas of an engine. But it was also an announcement. It was like a lighthouse. It was saying, "This route is clear and safe. The energy source is stable." This was not a one-time journey. It was a station on a galactic highway. Ophi hadn't come to our solar system. It was just passing through. For 25,000 years, perhaps for millions of years, it had been traveling, jumping from one system to another, and now the charging cycle was over. It was ready for the next jump, the moons stabilizing the orbit, the core generating energy, the structure sending the message. All these mechanisms served a single purpose: to run a galactic travel engine. But that wasn't the most exciting part. The most exciting part was what Webb's latest data showed. As Ophi was about to make its next jump, it had slightly altered its trajectory. And the new route was not targeting a random star system. The new route was targeting exactly one point: our home, Earth. At that moment, all the analyses, all the technical details lost their meaning, because the real miracle was now beginning before our eyes. The scientists were no longer studying how an engine worked. They were witnessing an event itself, the greatest, most unexpected, most unbelievable event in history. Now the tempo reaches its maximum. Because discoveries were no longer coming slowly, they were coming like a flood, new data every second, new information, a new shock. Each shock was rewriting everything we knew about the universe. This was the climax. This was the greatest moment in human history. Get ready. And the first shock came, that giant hexagonal structure on Ophi's surface, that transmitter broadcasting the message. Suddenly, it changed color. The pure, brilliant white it had reflected for 25,000 years turned into a deep, velvety black. But this was not an ordinary black. It was blacker than Vanta black, the blackest material ever made by humans. It absorbed 99.999% of the light that fell on it. This was the closest thing to physically possible absolute black. It was like looking at the event horizon of a black hole. This was not a color change. This was a phase shift. The structure had switched from reflective mode to absorbent mode, and when it did, something incredible happened. It began to draw energy from the space around it, not just the microwave energy from the moons, starlight, the cosmic background radiation, even the kinetic energy of the smallest micrometeorite passing nearby. This was something observed for the first time in history: passive energy absorption. The structure was sucking up every crumb of energy wandering in space like a sponge. Within an hour, it had absorbed 10 times the energy consumed by all of humanity throughout its history. This was incredible. The scientists watched helplessly. An astrophysicist said, "This was a violation of the second law of thermodynamics. Entropy was not increasing. It was reversing. It was like spilled milk flowing back into the glass on its own. It shouldn't have happened, but it was happening." The term paradigm shift was no longer sufficient. This was the rebirth of science itself. But this was only the beginning. Because, as the structure absorbed energy, the 100-kilometer sphere beneath the planet's surface began to react. Its already mind-boggling magnetic field multiplied in strength. Within minutes, the field strength reached 10 to the power of 15 Tesla. This was 1,000 times stronger than the magnetic field of magnetos, the most powerful magnetic objects in the known universe. This was not breaking a record. This was burning the record book and scattering its ashes into space. This massive magnetic field began to bend the space-time around the planet. But This was not a gentle curvature like the one Einstein's general theory of relativity describes for mass. This was a violent, deliberate warping, as if an invisible hand was wringing the fabric of space like a towel. The James Webb Space Telescope recorded the gravitational lensing effect caused by this warping. The light from distant galaxies behind Ophi was bent, stretched, and multiplied. But these effects were normally the kind that thousands of galaxy clusters could create, not a single planet. How could this be possible? How could this sphere, with only the mass of a planet, create the gravitational effect of a galaxy cluster? The answer lay in the magnetic field itself. The field was so strong that it was interacting with gravity itself. This was something predicted by Kaluza-Klein theory but never observed. Magnetism and gravity were unifying in a fifth dimension. Ophi wasn't just traveling through space-time, it was building bridges between dimensions. The scientific world was split in two by this data. One group shouted that this was new physics, while others argued that the data had to be wrong somehow. But the numbers did not lie. And then the most incredible thing happened, that perfect clockwork mechanism of 20 moons. But now the real shock comes, because they were not expected to stop, but they did stop. And this would change everything we know forever, because this was not just a stop, it was the beginning of a transformation, and the target of this transformation was us, because they were not expected to stop. But they stopped. The 20 moons of Ophi, that perfect clockwork mechanism. Suddenly, it stopped. But they did not deviate from their orbits. They did not collide. They just stopped where they were, floating motionless in space, completely still. This was contrary to all the laws of motion of Newton and Kepler. An object had to move to stay in orbit. But they were not, because Ophi's massive magnetic field was now locking not only the planet but also its moons in place. Each moon was trapped in a gravitational potential well created by the magnetic field. It was like 20 marbles, each placed at the very bottom of 20 separate bowls. They could not move, because to move, they would have to climb the side of the bowl, meaning they would have to expend an incredible amount of energy. This was the first observed static orbital lock in history. These moons were no longer orbiting Ophi. They had become part of Ophi's effect on space-time, like anchors. 20 giant anchors the planet was using to stabilize itself for the next jump. This discovery was published on the cover of the journal Nature with the headline, "Is Gravity Dead?" Because if an object can stay in an orbit without moving, the gravity we know was indeed incomplete or misunderstood. But the numbers did not lie, and then the most incredible thing happened. When those 20 moons became motionless, they started to do something. They all focused on a single target, Earth, and they fired an incredibly powerful, sharply focused beam of particles. But this was not a weapon, it was an invitation. This beam was composed of neutrinos, ghost particles that are nearly massless and interact with almost nothing. When this flood of neutrinos reached Earth, it caused no damage. It passed through the atmosphere, the Earth's crust, and even our bodies like a ghost. But it changed one thing: the data at the Ice Cube Neutrino Observatory in Antarctica. Because these neutrinos were not random. They carried a code within them, a three-dimensional quantum hologram. When the scientists at Ice Cube loaded this data into their computers, they could not believe their eyes. The code was a star map, not of the Milky Way, of the Andromeda Galaxy. And on this map, hundreds of thousands of habitable planets were marked. There was incredibly detailed data on each one, about atmospheric composition, temperature, gravity, and even biodiversity. This was not a map. It was an encyclopedia, a galactic internet. And the access key to this internet was sent to us by Ophi from 2.5 million light-years away. This changed humanity's place in the universe forever. We were no longer alone. Not only that, we learned that the universe was much more crowded and much more accessible than we thought. But there was one coordinate particularly highlighted on this map, a starting point, and this coordinate showed where Ophi itself had come from. But beyond this information, what was the meaning of this neutrino stream? Why now? Why us? Was this just a gift? Or a warning? So, scientists turned all their telescopes to that single starting point, to that place on the map to Ophi's home, Hubble, James Webb, ALMA. All eyes on Earth and in space were locked on that single point in the Andromeda Galaxy. Their expectations were low. What could they see from 2.5 million light-years away? But what they saw eclipsed all the shocks so far, because just at that coordinate, there was no star, there was no planet, there was a massive galaxy-sized structure, a Dyson sphere. But it was unlike anything we knew. This structure did not envelop a single star. It enveloped a billion stars at the center of Andromeda. This was the work of a Type 3 civilization on the Kardashev scale, a civilization that could control the entire energy output of a galaxy. The structure's diameter was 100,000 light-years. This was equal to the diameter of our own Milky Way galaxy. And its surface was covered with perfect geometric patterns, like the hexagons on Ophi's surface. We were seeing this structure with the light it emitted 2.5 million years ago, so we were seeing its past self. But James Webb's infrared eyes saw something else, because an incredible number of small objects were coming towards us from the structure. Thousands, millions. All of them were like Ophi. All were engines travelling on the galactic highway, and they were all coming towards the Milky Way. This was not a discovery. This was not an invasion fleet. This was a migration, an intergalactic migration of peoples. How could this be possible? How could a civilization cage a billion stars? This required not just engineering, sqrt, but godlike power. Scientists tried to calculate the energy of this structure. The numbers made no sense. 10 to the power of 37 watts. This was more than the total brightness of all the stars in the known universe. This civilization was not just controlling the energy of its own galaxy. Perhaps they were controlling the energy of multiple galaxies. This discovery was published in the Astrophysical Journal with the headline, "We are ants," because that was exactly our place. We were like ants in a forest, living without even being aware of the forest's existence. That's how we were. But now we had seen the forest. But there was something more terrifying, because Ophi continued to approach Earth, and as it got closer, that absolute blackness on its hexagonal surface grew even darker. It absorbed more energy, and now we understood. Ophi's target was not Earth. Ophi's target was the Sun. It was coming to refuel for its next jump. But what did that mean? Refueling from a star. This was something never before seen, never theorized. Ophi did not enter the Sun's orbit. It did not circle it. It moved in a straight line, directly towards the heart of the Sun, and it collided. But there was no collision, no explosion. Ophi glided through the Sun's surface like a ghost. That absolute black hexagonal structure cut through the 5,500-degree hot plasma as if it were a puddle of water, without taking any damage. And it proceeded towards the Sun's core, at 15 million degrees Celsius. This was beyond impossible. No material could withstand this temperature and pressure. But Ophi did, because it was not made of normal matter. Its structure was made of an exotic matter, perhaps a matter from higher dimensions as predicted by string theory. When it reached the Sun's core, Ophi's hexagonal structure opened up like a flower, and it began to absorb the Sun's energy directly from the core. In a second, it absorbed the amount of energy the Sun produces in 1 million years. This was like a mosquito drinking an ocean in a single sip. The Sun's brightness visibly dimmed. All observatories on Earth recorded this dimming, a 0.1% decrease. It may sound small, but for a star, this meant a catastrophe. The fusion reactions inside the Sun slowed down. Our star was dying before our eyes. The scientific world was horrified. Heads of state held emergency meetings. But what could they do? How could a mosquito stop a hurricane? And then it was all over. After just 12 minutes, Ophi quietly re-emerged from the Sun's interior, just as it had entered. But it was no longer the same. That absolute black surface now shone with a dazzling whiteness. It had absorbed the Sun's energy. It was fully charged, and now it was ready for its next jump. But this jump itself would create a shockwave bigger than anything we had seen so far, because Ophi was not just leaving. As it left, it was leaving a permanent scar on the fabric of the universe, and in that scar, a hope and a curse were hidden for us. Because the real question was, the sun was wounded, but not dead. Ophi had not drawn enough energy to kill it. It had only taken what was necessary for its next journey. This was not an attack. It was a harvest. But this harvest changed the balance of our solar system forever. This permanent 0.1% decrease in the sun's brightness would trigger a new ice age on Earth, a winter that would last for hundreds of years. But Ophi didn't care. It had completed its mission. Now, it released the static anchors formed by its 20 moons. The moons began to move again. But this time they were not orbiting Ophi. They all gathered at a single point behind Ophi, and they merged. The 20 moons formed a single giant ring, 300 kilometers in diameter. This was an Alcubierre ring, the final piece of the jump drive. Ophi passed through the ring, and at that moment, spacetime tore apart. There was no explosion, no flash of light. It was there one moment and gone the next. All that remained was a wound in spacetime, briefly open, and the gravitational waves it emitted. The LIGO and Virgo observatories recorded these waves. It was the strongest gravitational wave signal in history, 1 billion times more powerful than the merger of two black holes. This signal told us Ophi's new destination. It was no longer Andromeda. It had gone much farther, to the edge of the observable universe, 13.4 billion light-years away, in a single instant. This was not just a technology. This was a defiance of the rules of the universe itself. All these events, the discovery of a galactic civilization, the harvesting of the sun, the observation of a journey many times faster than light, left humanity with a fundamental question. Who are we? What is our place in this universe? Were we ants, or something more? These questions were no longer scientific, they were philosophical, existential. But now, it is time to pause and think. Time to breathe after the rapid succession of events and ask what this new reality means for us. Because Ophi had not just left behind a wounded sun and a dark future, it had also left a gift, that galactic map, and a question. What were we to do with this map? What were we to do with this terrifying, overwhelming, but also incredibly promising information? Would we just wait for the winter? Or would we look to the stars and ask why? And now we face the most important question. All these discoveries, these galactic civilizations, these unbelievable technologies, what do they all mean for us? Speed no longer matters. Now it is time to stop and think, time to calm down and re-understand our place on this little blue dot, adrift in the cosmic ocean. Because the universe has spoken to us, and what will our answer be? This question leads us to our most fundamental and most uncomfortable contradiction. We are incomprehensibly large, and at the same time, incomprehensibly small. On one hand, there is that massive structure at the center of the Andromeda Galaxy, 100,000 light-years in diameter, enveloping 1 billion stars. A reality where a civilization has turned an entire galaxy into a power plant. And from this civilization, thousands of travelers like Ophi are streaming towards us. On the other hand, there is us, fragile beings, stuck to the surface of this planet, with our bodies of about 1.7 meters, and our lives that last at most 80 to 90 years. The diameter of the observable universe is about 93 billion light-years. And in this distance, we occupy less space than an atom. This is a tragic reality. Because it means we will never reach that galactic structure, that we will never shake hands with that civilization, that we will never visit the hundreds of thousands of worlds on that map. It means we will see that starting point where Ophi came from only as a faint point of light, without ever setting foot on its soil. We are like people stranded on an island. We know that magnificent cities and civilizations exist beyond the ocean, but we will never have a ship to cross that ocean. This creates a feeling of cosmic loneliness and helplessness. We are physically cut off from the rest of the universe. But this is where the but comes in. We may not be able to reach it physically, but we were there mentally. We saw that structure with the eyes of the James Webb Space Telescope. We read that map with the data from IceCube. We heard Ophi's departure with the ears of LIGO. Our bodies may be chained to this planet. But our minds have travelled to the edges of the universe, and we understood. Understanding is a more permanent act than touching. Because when we understand, that knowledge becomes a part of us. That galactic structure is no longer just an object in Andromeda. It is a part of our collective consciousness. This is why the paradox of being both small and large at the same time is actually the most beautiful definition of being human. You are too. Yes, you who are hearing these words right now. Perhaps you feel like a grain of sand in the face of the infinite vastness of the universe. But remember, that grain of sand can think about the universe itself. It can comprehend its own smallness and the universe's greatness. The neurons in your brain have the same basic structure as the neurons in the supercomputers that calculated Ophi's orbits. The mind that understood that galactic map comes from the same root as your mind. You are a tool through which the universe observes, understands, and marvels at itself. Feel the light of the sun? You know that this light set off from a star 8 minutes ago, and that star will one day be harvested by a being like Ophi. When you look at the sky, you know that every star you see could be a potential solar system, a potential Ophi, a potential civilization. Your moment is filled with knowledge and meaning, and that makes it eternal. Your 80-year life is not a meaningless 80-year life. It is 80 years in which a conscious universe experiences itself, and that makes everything worthwhile. But within this value lies perhaps the most human contradiction. Because we are cosmically all alone, but because we are cosmically all alone, but we are also connected to each other, more than ever before. On one hand, our nearest neighbouring star, Proxima Centauri, is 4.2 light-years away. That galactic civilization is 2.5 million light-years away. And the edge of the universe where Ophi travelled is 13.4 billion light-years away. These distances are so vast that communication is impossible. If we sent a message, the reply would either come millions of years later, or it would never come. This is loneliness in its deepest sense. The silence of the universe is deafening. Knowing that other civilizations exist does not alleviate this loneliness, but sharpens it. Because now we know what we are missing. It's like knowing there's a party but not being invited. This is a tragic isolation. We are left to our own devices on our own planet with our own problems, our own petty wars. But there is that magic word again. But Ophi's arrival did not just show us how alone we are. It also reminded us how much we belong to each other. When Ophi harvested the sun, borders lost their meaning. Passports, flags, ideologies, they all became meaningless in the face of that 0.1% dimming, because the coming ice age threatened not a single country, but the entire planet. For the first time in history, humanity had to truly unite against a single enemy, cold and merciless physics, and that galactic map, because it was not just a package of information, but a call for collaboration, because understanding the data on that map exceeded the capacity of a single country, a single company, a single mind. For the first time, all the planet's scientists, engineers, linguists, and artists worked on a common project, and you are a part of this bond. Maybe you're not a scientist, maybe you're not an engineer, but when you talk to a neighbour, when you help a friend, when you try to understand another culture, you're also weaving this global bond. Because the greatest lesson Ophi taught us is that no matter how big the threats from the outside are, our greatest strength lies in our connection to each other. Because we are not 8 billion lonely individuals on this planet, we're a crew of 8 billion people on the same ship, and the ship is slowly taking on water. But maybe that's not so bad, because sometimes we have to be in danger first to come together. All these thoughts, these paradoxes, greatness and smallness, eternity and the moment, loneliness and connection, they now define humanity's new condition. But there is more, because in the midst of all these philosophical reflections, Ophi had left something else behind, something concrete, something physical, and perhaps the most hopeful of all. but also the most dangerous, because inside the sun, something was left behind from Ophi, a seed. And so, in the midst of all these existential upheavals, humanity was faced with a fourth contradiction. We are incredibly weak, and at the same time, incredibly strong. On one hand, there is the fact that Ophi could reduce the brightness of our sun by 0.1% with a single harvest. A single being, a single action, and the fate of our planet was changed forever. We could do nothing against the coming ice age. We were like a helpless plant on the side of a highway, blown away by the wind of a passing truck. If that galactic civilization had wanted, it could have extinguished our sun completely or thrown our planet out of its orbit. Compared to their technology, our atomic bombs were as ineffective as a snowball thrown by a child. This is absolute powerlessness. It is facing the fact that our fate is not in our own hands. This tragically means that we are just pawns in the grand plan of the universe. We cannot control the final outcome of our actions. This situation can lead to deep despair. But, again and again that magic but comes to our aid. Yes, Ophi changed our planet's climate, but it also left us a gift, that galactic map and that technological seed in the sun's core, a miniature version of Ophi's zero-point energy reactor, a blueprint, a user manual. It was telling us, this is how it's done. This gave us a choice. We may not be able to control our fate, but we can control our reaction to it. We can wait for the ice age to come and freeze, or we can study that seed, understand that technology, and rewrite our destiny. Maybe we can build our own zero-point energy reactors. Maybe we can artificially heat our planet. Maybe even better, we can build our own Ophis to travel to one of the worlds on that map. Our weakness became the source of our greatest strength. Because only when we are at the bottom do we understand how strong we are to climb up, and you are a part of this power. Maybe you can't build a reactor, but you can have an idea. You can solve a problem. You can give your child hope. When you choose to build instead of giving up, you use that power. Ophi showed us not only how weak we are, but also how resilient we can be. It gave us a problem, but it also left the key to the solution. The rest is up to us. This brings us to a perhaps more unsettling and at the same time more liberating contradiction. We know nothing, and at the same time, we know everything. On one hand, with the arrival of Ophi, we understood how incomplete and naive all our scientific knowledge was. Our laws of physics turned out to be local rules, valid only for the special conditions of this small planet and this quiet solar system. The rest of the universe operates according to completely different, much more complex, and unbelievable laws. Gravity is not what we thought. Energy is not conserved as we assumed. Matter can exist in forms we cannot even imagine. In short, everything we thought we knew about the universe turned out to be wrong. This is a tragic ignorance, like a person who has spent his entire life in one room and thought that room was the whole universe. Then someone opens the door and shows that cities, oceans, continents exist outside. At that moment, you realize that everything you knew was actually nothing. This is the sudden evaporation of our entire intellectual heritage. But there is that but. That wonderful but. Yes, we knew nothing. But now we know this. The biggest thing Ophi showed us was how much we don't know. And this is not ignorance, but the beginning of wisdom. Because only a mind that knows it does not know can be open to learning. We no longer claim to know the rules of the universe. Now we are trying to discover them. And this is a much more exciting journey. That galactic map gave us not only places to visit, but also questions to ask. Why do these planets have this atmosphere? Why did that civilization choose these stars? Why were these routes drawn this way? Every data point is a new field of research, a new doctoral thesis, a new potential for discovery. Science did not die. On the contrary, it has never been so alive. Because we're no longer looking for answers. Now we are learning to ask the right questions, and you are a part of this discovery. Just as a child curiously asks why, you also ask when you look at the universe. When you are not satisfied with what you know, when you question dogmas, and when you are open to a new idea, you become a part of that great journey of discovery. We have not reached the end of knowledge. On the contrary, we have just taken the first step into the ocean of knowledge, and this ocean is infinite. After all this information, how do you feel? On one hand, an overwhelming fear and helplessness in the face of the universe's vastness and our insignificance. On the other, a deep admiration and privilege of being part of this incredible cosmic drama, of understanding it, and of witnessing it. Both are true, both are valid. Because this is the new dilemma of being human, to feel both fear and awe, to feel both insignificant and to believe you're at the center of the universe. Ophi showed us not only the universe, but also ourselves. We are beings who can be afraid, but still go on, who seek meaning, but can accept meaninglessness, who are alone, but still hold on to each other. Fluctuating between these two feelings is not a weakness, but the deepest truth of our humanity, our smallness and our greatness, our transience and our eternity, our loneliness and our connection, our powerlessness and our power, and finally, our ignorance and our knowledge. Ophi's legacy is these contradictions. But, beyond all these philosophical questions, there is an even deeper, more personal question, perhaps more important than Ophi's map or its technological seed. It is not the question of what will we do, it is the question of who will we be. Because just Ophi showed us what the universe is, now it's our turn. It's time to choose who we want to be in this universe, and this choice involves much more than just building reactors or traveling to the stars. This choice concerns morality, values, and the meaning of being human. Because that galactic civilization had left another trace behind, and this trace. Because that galactic civilization had left another trace behind. And this trace was less about what we will do, and more about who we will be. This trace was the massive structure in Andromeda itself, that engineering marvel the size of the Milky Way, enveloping 1 billion stars. This structure was not just a power plant, it was a monument, a philosophy, a way of life. And this way of life forces us to confront a completely new contradiction. We are incredibly free as individuals, but we are collectively on a completely predetermined path. On one hand, you have your own life. You decide what to eat when you wake up in the morning, what music to listen to, who to talk to. Your life is made up of millions of small and large decisions. You shape your career, your family, your beliefs, your values. This is the most fundamental experience of free will. You are the author of your own story. This is humanity's most precious privilege. But, on the other hand, there is that galactic civilization that Ophi showed us. They have united the fate of 1 billion stars and trillions of planets under a single structure. Does an individual in this system have the ability to make a choice in the traditional sense? Or are they all just parts of that massive collective consciousness, that machine? This is a tragic thought. Because it could mean that at the highest level of development, individuality may disappear completely. Perhaps at the end of the evolutionary journey, free will becomes not a luxury, but an inefficient obstacle. Perhaps that civilization, by merging billions of minds into a single supermind, has reached a level of harmony and efficiency we cannot even imagine. But the price of this harmony was the death of the individual. This is a thought contrary to all our values. But here is the but moment. Perhaps we misunderstand freedom. Perhaps true freedom is not doing whatever you want, but doing what is right for the good of the whole to which you belong. Perhaps that civilization did not destroy its individuals. On the contrary, it exalted them by making them part of something greater. Think of a violinist in an orchestra. When he plays alone, he is free. But when he becomes part of the orchestra, he gives up his own little melody and becomes part of a much larger, much more magnificent symphony. At that moment, he loses his individual freedom, but gains a collective meaning. Perhaps that civilization is a galactic symphony, where trillions of individuals play together in harmony. You stand right in the middle of this contradiction. On one hand, you're the composer of your own life, you play your own little melody. But, at the same time, you have responsibilities to your family, your society, your humanity. You're also part of a larger orchestra, and every day you try to find a balance between individual desires and collective duties. Perhaps this is the question Ophi is asking us. What kind of music will you make? A cacophony of individual notes, or the symphony of a harmonious whole? This leads us to another deep thought. We possess immense knowledge, but our actions are incredibly limited. On one hand, we have that galactic map at our fingertips, the knowledge of hundreds of thousands of habitable worlds, their atmospheres, their temperatures, their biologies. The answer to the question humanity has been asking for thousands of years, are we alone in the universe? Now stands before us as a giant no. Not only that, thanks to the technological seed Ophi left behind, we know the theoretical foundations of zero-point energy, of the Alcubierre drive. We now know how to do it. This is godlike knowledge. The key to the secrets of the universe is in our hands. But, on the other hand, the painful reality stands. Knowing does not mean being able to do. Reaching even the nearest planet on that map would take hundreds of thousands of years with our current technology. Understanding the technological seed and building a prototype might take centuries, and while we do all this, our planet is slowly drifting towards an ice age. This is a tragic dilemma. It's like having the recipe for the world's most delicious meal while your own kitchen is on fire. We know where we could go, but we have no ship. We know how to get there, but we don't have the time or resources to build the engine. This is the greatest disappointment that knowledge can bring. To see the solution but not be able to reach it. But, here comes that but again. Knowledge is an action in itself. The existence of this map, the existence of this seed, has changed the psychology of humanity forever. We are no longer fighting just to survive. We are working for a greater purpose. That map gave us a goal, a hope, a dream. And when people have a dream, they can achieve the impossible. Maybe we won't be the first generation to reach these planets. Maybe not even our grandchildren. But we can be the generation that starts this journey. Just like the masters in the Middle Ages who laid the foundation of a cathedral, they knew they would never see finished. They didn't just shape stone, they built a faith in the future, and we are now building a faith in the future, and you are a part of this construction. When you look at that map, you don't just see distant worlds, you see humanity's potential. When you show a child the stars, you're not just showing them balls of gas, you're showing them goals we can one day reach. Because hope is the most powerful fuel, and Ophi gave us a galaxy full of hope. Now it's time to use it. And this brings us to a final contradiction. Our curiosity is infinite, but the universe's answers may never come. On one hand, there is everything Ophi has shown us. But at the same time, there are things it has not shown us. Why is that galactic civilization migrating? Why didn't it make direct contact with us? Why did Ophi just refuel and continue on its way? There are no answers to these questions. Ophi left us a user manual, but not a philosophy book. It showed us the how, not the why. This is a tragic silence. It's like God knocking on your door, giving you the secrets of the universe, and then leaving without saying a single word. All that remains is an infinite curiosity and unanswered questions. This is the greatest torment of the human mind, wanting to know but never being sure, having to live in this uncertainty. But here is one last but. Perhaps the lack of answers is the greatest gift. Because if we had all the answers, what would be left to search for? If all the secrets of the universe were solved, what would be left to discover? Perhaps the universe, by withholding the answers from us, is protecting our most precious thing, our curiosity. Because what makes us human is not finding the answers, but asking the questions. The search itself is more important than the destination, and you are a part of this search. Every question that comes to your mind while watching this documentary is part of that great search. Your search for meaning is your most human trait, and the universe offers you an infinite playground to continue this search. Perhaps Ophi's real message was not in the prime numbers or the star maps. Perhaps the real message was the action itself, a being that, without revealing its secrets, just did what it had to do and moved on. Perhaps they wanted to tell us, stop talking and start doing. You will find the meaning along the way. Individualism and collectivism, knowledge and inaction, curiosity and unanswerable questions. These new paradoxes force us not only to think, but also to choose. But beyond all these thoughts, Ophi left something else behind. An echo, a whisper. And this whisper constituted perhaps the most hopeful, but also the most frightening part of this whole story. Because Ophi was not alone, and they were not the only ones coming. And this whisper takes us on a final philosophical journey. Because Ophi was not alone, and they were not the only ones coming. This whisper takes us on a final philosophical journey. Because, in the gravitational wave signal Ophi left behind, in the echo of its departure, there was another anomaly. The signal was not coming from a single source. It was a combination of thousands of signals, copies of each other, but with tiny phase differences between them. This meant that the migration from Andromeda was not going in a single direction. The Milky Way was just one stop. Thousands of ships like Ophi were going not only to our galaxy, but to millions of other galaxies in the universe at the same time. This situation confronts us with our final and dizzying contradiction. The universe is incredibly creative and at the same time, incredibly repetitive. On one hand, there is Ophi itself, an engineering marvel, unique, one of a kind, a technology that produces its own energy, travels between dimensions, and defies gravity. Its existence is proof of how creative the universe can be, of how far the limits of physics can be stretched. But, on the other hand, there is that gravitational data. This data tells us that Ophi is actually a production model. It is not unique. It is just one of millions of copies. Perhaps there are different models, different sizes. But they all work on the same basic principle. This is a tragic disappointment, because it shows that even the greatest secret of the universe is ultimately a mass-produced product. Like our cars, like our phones. Technologies that were once revolutionary become commonplace and mass-produced over time. Perhaps Ophi, for that galactic civilization, means what a Toyota Corolla means to us. Reliable, efficient, but certainly not exciting. This takes away some of the magic of the universe, a universe where even the greatest miracle can become ordinary. But, here is that but moment again. This repetition is also proof of how orderly and understandable the universe is, and if there are millions of ships like Ophi, it means that the laws of physics that created them are universal. They are valid in our galaxy, they are valid in another galaxy. This means that the technological seed Ophi left us can also work in our solar system. It's not a copy, it's a standard, and standards are the foundation of engineering, because once you understand how something works, you can rebuild it and perhaps make it better. The fact that Ophi is a mass-produced product is not a disappointment, but an opportunity. It means we can do it too, and you are a part of this cycle. You balance creativity and repetition in your life every day. On one hand, you search for new ideas, you try new things. On the other, you rely on routines and habits that you know work. Like your morning coffee, like the music you listen to on your way to work. Creativity is born from chaos, but progress comes from order and repetition. Perhaps this is what the universe is teaching us. First dream, create, but then turn that creation into a standard, because only then can real progress emerge. This brings us to the final dilemma at the heart of this entire journey. The universe is completely indifferent to us and at the same time, deeply connected to us. On one hand, there are Ophi's actions. Its harvesting of our sun, its changing of our climate, without even pausing for a moment to ask, what will happen to the living beings on this small blue planet? For it, we were no different from an anthill on the side of the road. It stepped on it and didn't even notice. That galactic civilization controlling 1 billion stars in Andromeda probably doesn't even know we exist. The universe is blind and deaf to our sorrows, our joys, our hopes. This is a tragic indifference. Concepts like love, hate, justice are just our inventions. They have no equivalent in the rest of the universe. This creates a feeling of being ultimately alone and meaningless. But for one last time, that beautiful word "but" comes. And yes, the universe may be indifferent to us. But it is also what created us. Every atom in your body was forged in the heart of a star billions of years ago. The oxygen you're breathing right now was ejected into space by a supernova explosion. The universe is your mother and your father. It created you, it gave you life, and it gave you a mind that can understand its own indifference. This is the greatest paradox. The universe is both the problem and the answer. It may not have a personal interest in you, but we are its personal product. This is like a painter who is indifferent to his painting. But the painting itself is irrefutable proof of the painter's existence. We are like a painting created by the universe, and you are a brushstroke in that painting. Perhaps the universe's interest in you is not to love you personally, but to ensure your existence, and to exist is a much more fundamental gift than to be loved. Because, as long as you exist, you can create meaning, you can create love, you can create justice. The universe may not give you these things, but it gave you the potential to create them, and that, perhaps, is the greatest interest of all. At the end of this journey, how do we feel? Scared, hopeful, insignificant, powerful, all at the same time? Because do we now know that none of these feelings is more correct than the other? They are all reflections of our place in this new and complex universe. Ophi showed us not only the stars, but also ourselves. And what we saw was not simple or easy, but it was real. We now know that the universe is both unbelievably vast and small enough to fit in our minds. We now know that our lives are both gone in the blink of an eye and deep enough to contain the entire history of the universe. We now know that we're both floating alone in the cosmic ocean and tightly bound to each other as a crew on the same ship. We now know that we're both powerless against the giants of the universe and have the power to rewrite our destiny. And perhaps most importantly, we now know that we know nothing, and for that very reason, we have the potential to learn everything. This journey could end here. All discoveries have been made, all philosophical questions have been asked. But in reality, everything is just beginning, because Ophi is gone, but its legacy is here, in our minds, in our hearts, and in that technological seed it left in the heart of our wounded son. The question before us now is, what will we do with all this legacy? And the answer to that question is not in the next documentary, the next discovery, or the next generation. The answer is right here and now, in you. In this journey, we saw the beginning and the secrets of the universe. But there is something I haven't told you. The universe has an expiration date, and that date may be much closer than we think. A cold silence, a violent tear, or a collapse. On our next journey, we will examine the ultimate fate of the universe. Are you ready for that inevitable end? Because everything has an end, and that end may be very different from what we think. And this end that awaits us perhaps holds the greatest secret of all, because everything has an end, and that end may be very different from what we think. And this end that awaits us perhaps holds the greatest secret of all. Therefore, we now descend to perhaps the deepest layer of our journey. Because the final whisper. Ophi left us pointed to a reality that brings all these existential contradictions together and gives them a new meaning. This is not just about what we are or who we will be, this is about why we exist. And this question confronts us with a completely new dilemma. We are entirely coincidental in the grand plan of the universe, and at the same time, entirely inevitable. On one hand, there is your existence, the result of cosmic events that have lasted for billions of years, of exploding stars, merging galaxies, and countless random chemical reactions on our planet. If one moment had been different, if a meteor had struck at a different angle, if a gene had mutated in a different way, you would not be here. This is a tragic reminder of how fragile and how coincidental life is. The fact that the universe did not specifically design you, that your existence is a lucky number in an infinite roll of the dice, this can feed that deep sense of meaninglessness that underlies our existence. If everything is just a coincidence, then what does it matter? But, on the other hand, there are the fundamental laws of the universe itself. The laws of physics and chemistry dictate that under certain conditions, certain results will emerge. Carbon atoms tend to combine in specific ways. Gravity tends to bring matter together in specific ways. Perhaps, given the right conditions, the emergence of life and consciousness is not a coincidence, but a necessity. Perhaps the universe is a machine programmed to give birth to consciousness, and from this perspective, your existence is not a coincidence, but a result that has been awaited for billions of years. The purpose of the universe was to see itself with your eyes, to think with your mind. This adds an almost divine meaning to your existence. You're not a coincidence. You're destiny itself. You live within this contradiction. Sometimes you're amazed at how random the events in your life are. Meeting a person, getting a job opportunity, it all seems like a momentary chance. But sometimes, when you look back, you feel how all the pieces fit together perfectly, as if everything was planned to bring you to this very moment, to be both a product of coincidence and a part of destiny. Perhaps being human is to be able to accept both of these truths at the same time, to be both as lucky as a lottery ticket and as inevitable as a mathematical equation. This brings us to our perhaps most personal and ultimate contradiction. We are incredibly alone in this universe, and at the same time, we are the universe itself. On one hand, there is your individual consciousness, that voice inside your head, your memories, hopes, fears. This experience is entirely unique to you. No one can see the world exactly through your eyes. No one can feel exactly what you feel. This is isolation in its deepest sense, being trapped within the confines of your own mind. This is a tragic feeling of loneliness, especially in the face of the infinity of the universe. Among billions of galaxies and trillions of beings, you are alone with your own thoughts. But, here comes that but again. What does science tell us? The atoms that make up your body were forged inside dying stars billions of years ago. You are, literally, stardust. The energy that keeps you alive comes from a star 93 million miles away. The electrical signals that form your thoughts are subject to the fundamental laws of physics that govern the universe. The distinction between you and the most distant galaxy is actually an illusion. You're not something separate from the universe. You are a part of the universe experiencing itself. You're a thinking galaxy, a feeling supernova. You are the universe. And this is the most absolute antidote to loneliness. How can you be lonely if you're a part of everything? How can you be insignificant if you carry the entire universe within you? This is not a tragic isolation, but a cosmic communion. You are the universe's attempt to know itself. That's why, when you look at the sky in the morning, you don't just see distant points of light. You see family members. You see your past. You see yourself, because you and they are different branches of the same cosmic tree. After all this information, how do you feel? Is it an overwhelming fear and helplessness in the face of the universe's vastness and our insignificance? Or is it a deep admiration and privilege of being part of this incredible cosmic drama, of understanding it and of witnessing it? Both are true, both are valid. Because this is the new dilemma of being human, to feel both fear and awe, to feel both insignificant and to believe you are at the center of the universe. Ophi showed us not only the universe, but also ourselves, and what we saw was neither frightening nor comforting. It was just real. We are beings who can be afraid, but still go on. Beings who seek meaning but can accept meaninglessness. Beings who are alone but still hold on to each other. Fluctuating between these two feelings is not a weakness, but the deepest truth of our humanity. We know now. We know that the universe is both unbelievably vast and small enough to fit in our minds. We know that our lives are both gone in the blink of an eye and deep enough to contain the entire history of the universe. We know that we're both drifting alone in the cosmic ocean and tightly bound to each other as a crew on the same ship. We know that we're both powerless against the giants of the universe and have the power to rewrite our destiny. And perhaps most importantly, we now know that we know nothing, and for that very reason, we have the potential to learn everything. This philosophical journey did not give us definitive answers, but it gave us a framework to ask the right questions. Ophi's legacy is not the planets it found or the messages it sent. Its legacy is these infinite question marks it opened in our minds. This journey may seem to end here. All discoveries have been made. All philosophical questions have been asked. But in reality, everything is just beginning, because Ophi is gone, but its legacy is here, in our minds, in our hearts, and in that technological seed it left in the heart of our wounded son. The question before us now is what we will do with all this legacy. And the answer to that question is not in the next documentary, the next discovery, or the next generation. The answer is right here and now, in you. Because The final act of this cosmic drama has not yet been written, and the hand that holds the pen is your hand. So, how will you write the rest of the story? In this journey, we saw Ophi tear through space-time and leave. But there is something I haven't told you. Its departure was not the only sound we heard in the universe. The universe is constantly playing us silent music. These are gravitational waves, the echoes of merging black holes and dying stars. On our next journey, we will learn to listen to this music of space-time. Are you ready to hear the song of the universe?